We happened to sit together, so we had a conversation. And then afterwards, the person was like, "Oh, I did not know you were this chill. I used to think you were pompous." And I was so surprised. In my head, I'm like, if only this person knew just how low my self esteem. Someone said this to me and it made me laugh. The person said basically, I'm shy. I'm very shy, and people think I'm arrogant. Some people have called me arrogant. Some people have said I think I'm better than they are. And it made me laugh because it is so relatable. It is so relatable. And I've experienced this personally. And I always talk about this. I believe I've even made a video about this before where I talked about how people think I'm arguing all the time. And all I'm trying to do is just make myself clear to avoid misunderstandings, but it backfires because then people really misunderstand my intentions, like the intentions behind me explaining, and they think maybe I'm being aggressive or stuff like that. And I do not know a single autistic person. I do not know a single autistic person who has not, experienced something like this, where people misunderstand them, where people think that they are trying to act like they're better than them. Even when you don't speak to some people, I know some people have told me how they are just quiet in like a particular social gathering that they go to regularly. They're just really quiet, but somehow somebody came to talk to them behind, like later on, and they were like, "Oh, these people are looking at you as somebody who acts superior, and so you should just try to come down to their level." And this person is a person who has a lot of insecurities, like many of us neurodivergent autistic people do. Like they have a lot of insecurities about themselves, about their body image, about their appearance, the way they dress, etc., etc. And yet, it was very surprising. It can be very, very surprising, very shocking, and a little bit irritating, to be fair. Because what did I ever say? What did I ever do? How did I ever act that would make people think that I'm arrogant or anything? And I've experienced it personally. Somebody I had never spoken to before. We were in a program together, like a sort of meeting, and then we happened to sit together, so we had a conversation. And then afterwards, the person was like, "Oh, I did not know you were this chill. I used to think you were pompous." And I was so surprised. I was very shocked. I could not even see anything. But in my head, I'm like, if only this person knew just how low my self esteem is. Like, if for you to be an arrogant person or pompous, like you said, you have to have very high self esteem. Like your self esteem has to be extremely high, which is what leads to arrogance in the first place, right? So if I have very low self esteem, like extreme, like my self esteem was non existent at that point. It was so low that I attended a meeting, an interview, and you know how they ask those questions that don't really have an answer, that you can never really win with, but what they really want to check is not the answer you give, but it's how you give the answer, which then is an indication of certain things about yourself. It was kind of an answer, a question like that was asked. And at the end, one of the feedbacks I got was you have really low self esteem. I think that was the first time anyone ever gave me that kind of feedback, and that I think that was one of the things that pushed me to begin my journey into introspection and all of that. So it was very painful at the time, extremely painful, but it was a blessing in disguise, right? Yeah, that was how low my self esteem was. So for somebody to come and tell me that they think I'm pompous, it's not adding up. It's just not adding up, right? So I think it's just a burden that we have to bear as autistic people. I think it's a burden that we have to bear. I believe that many of us have this very intense energy, and to people who aren't used to that kind of energy, or people who do not understand that kind of energy, or people who aren't aware enough to know that different people have different energies, and that this person that has this energy, if I were to look at them more closely, I would see that they're actually not deliberately putting on airs. They probably they're just intense, but they're not actually, you know, trying to act superior or anything like that. Many of them do not think that far. They just go with what they initially feel. And when they initially feel like we're intense, or they feel that intense energy and they don't know what they are feeling, they don't understand it, they react in a way that says that they become defensive. And sometimes they say things that can be hurtful towards us because we are usually still in our heads, right? We're usually still in our heads, we're usually still worried about how we appear, worried about what people are thinking about us, worried about what we're going to say, how we come across, how we sound, where we're going to put our hands, the expressions on our faces, the tension that we feel, what we're going to do about that. And again, we're always like trying to figure out at the same time how we're going to cut short the social interactions so that we can get out of there as quickly as possible. There's so many other things. There are so many things running in our heads whenever we're having a social interaction. So we're not usually aware that people are thinking like that or people are feeling intimidated about us. And because of that, there's always that clash because then people think, oh, the fact that this person is quiet, the fact that I'm talking to this person and they're giving one word answers means that they do not want to talk to me. Meanwhile, you're giving one word answers because you're trying to think of what to say and nothing is coming. So you don't know what to say and you don't want to say something that might be essentially you putting your foot in your mouth. You don't want to be offensive to that person. You don't want misunderstandings. You have that social anxiety. So now you're trying to pretend you're not sweating in your armpits. You're trying to pretend you're not having heart palpitations. You're trying to pretend you're not feeling lightheaded. You're trying to figure out what excuse you can give so that you can quickly leave that social setting. You're also wondering how they feel about you and if they're actually interacting with you because they want to interact with you or because they're just trying to be nice because they pity you and they hate that feeling of being pitied because it's once again indicative of the fact that you are not very good at social interactions and you're trying to figure out all these things. That's why you're giving one word answers, but they don't see it as that. They see that and they go, this person is giving me one word answers, which means they're not really interested in interacting with me, which means that I should just turn around and go look for somebody else who actually wants to interact with me. When there's enough of that, when there are quite a number of people who have experienced that with you, then the dominant belief, the circulating belief might be that, or talk might be that you're arrogant or pompous or you're full of yourself or you put on airs, etc., etc. Especially combined with maybe if you're a person who particularly likes presenting themselves in a fashionable form or if you have a certain way that you speak, which a lot of us do, which is maybe considered having a different accent or using big words like they say or speaking in a posh fashion and all of that, depending on where you are, then that could contribute to all those things. And if it's a work environment and you're really good at your job, then that can add to it. And they'll say, oh, it's because they think they are so much better than the rest of us because they're so good at this. If you're in school and you're very brilliant and you get really good results, and that might contribute to that. And you go, oh, it's because they do very well at school and they have really high marks. That's why they think they're better than the rest of us. So people are human beings, neurotypical, neurodivergent. We're all human beings and we all have insecurities. And many times we read people based on our own pathologies and we read people's actions towards us based on what's going on inside of our own heads, which is something that we should not be doing, but that's something a lot of people do. So once you have that idea, once you have the knowledge and you know that, okay, people are probably going to read you as arrogant because you're quiet and it's because you're shy, because you have social anxiety, because you're hesitant, because you're unsure of yourself, because you've got insecurities, etc., etc. People are probably going to read you as being arrogant or putting on airs or trying to act superior. Once you are aware of that and you do not want people to read you that way, then it might help you to make a little bit more effort to come out of yourself more in social situations and just interact with people more than you usually do and avoid one word answer and make sure your answers are open-ended as well so that the conversation can flow a little bit more. Learn tips that can help you with social interactions so that your interactions with people, your engagements with people become less and less tilted. Okay, anyway, I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. If you're still watching, if you have any questions, you can send me an email at askdrzayne@gmail.com. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you've not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up. And I will see you next time. Ciao.